Okay, House of Payne fans. I mean, as someone who doesn't have kids myself, but someone who was, disciplined growing up, and I have a nephew who I can tell he really isn't disciplined as much as he needs to be. I feel like I can speak on this. And again, let me reiterate: I don't have kids. I didn't carry four kids around like Janine, but as somebody who watches the show, I mentioned this in my review. If you watch my episode review for last night's season 12, episode 8, Pains in the Butt, you kind of know where I'm coming from with this. And for me, I think the episode was written in a way where I wasn't really siding with Janine, but that's, I will say this, the writing of the episode was good because that when it comes to like House of Pain and when I used to review assisted living, there weren't a lot of discussion videos. I would just do my review, trailer breakdowns, and that was pretty much it. The episodes were, straightforward, and once you talked about the episode, it was pretty much one and done, and I would just move on to the next thing. But in this situation, we're talking about the way that, Janine and CJ wanted to handle the discipline for their kids for bullying and taking things from other students. Now, for me, at first glance, I think both parents needed to calm down, but for different reasons. CJ needed to dial it back a bit, and Janine needed to open her eyes a bit more. Personally speaking, based on what we know in terms of Janine's character, she's been gone for quite. In real world, we know it's because Demetria has been working on a lot of other projects, hence why the character of Janine has not been on screen since season 9, and we're in season 12 now. But there have been mentions of her being out of town for work, or she's in town but she's not at home, she's downtown, this, that, and the third. And the episode I keep referencing when making this point is from last season. I forgot the name of the episode, but it was the episode when CJ didn't feel like the man in the house anymore because he's like, even though he goes to work, he's also kind of like the homemaker, cooking, cleaning, making sure everybody's okay. And remember, it's both the twins. Well, it's the twins there. Malik and Lisa live there, but they also have a kid of their own. And Jasmine, lives at, on campus, but she comes home from time to time. CJ is the only parent in the house holding it down 24/7. Janine is always gone for work. And I'm not faulting her for that. I'm just speaking the facts. Now, when CJ was talking about how I know how to punish my kids and whatnot, and she's like, "Oh, my kids, as in your kids and not mine," and I said this in my review, Janine was giving me Fatima vibes, but for different reasons. On that show, it's like my house, but it's like, oh, I thought it was our house, and this, and it's like, well, Zach paid for it and everything. And in this situation, it's different because it took both of them to make the kids, but of course, Janine did carry them around for 9 months and whatnot. But the thing about it is, when it came to Jasmine and Malik, a lot of the developmental years were kind of tarnished because of her addiction, and she wasn't there. She wasn't the one dealing with, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't there an episode of House of Pain that even after Janine got clean, I think it was Malik and or Jasmine who didn't want her dropping them off at school because the kids made fun of them, like she wasn't there. I mean, her decisions left scars on their relationship. And she wasn't there when they were being ridiculed and mocked or being teased and everything. And yeah, she got clean, good for her, really, because, to help the family. But the public opinion just never really went away, and they had to deal with that growing up. So there's always that sort of resentment. But on top of that, when it came to the twins after they were born, Janine became MIA because she kept drowning herself in work. So it's like and I think CJ said you're trading one addiction for another. Where even though being a workaholic and being, a substance abuser are two different things, both of these things are keeping you away from the family. So in this situation, you got these two young kids here. Their mom is usually gone. I'm not questioning Janine's love and whatnot. Please do not get me wrong. I am not questioning her devotion to her family. But it's the fact that she doesn't know her kids as well as she thinks she does. You know? Now, when it came to Jasmine and Malik getting into a lot of mischief and whatnot, usually they were at each other's throats, because they couldn't stand each other. Because, Jasmine was the annoying little sister, and Malik, he was the rebellious teenager. But with the twins, they got that twin thing going on, so they're really more aligned with each other, unlike their older siblings. And as a result, they concocted these bullying schemes, and now they got all these comic books, expensive action figures, and taking, gourmet lunch from kids and whatnot. And as a result, CJ got the phone call from the school and a bunch of other parents talking about how, hey, your kids are bullying and taking stuff from our kids. Like, what's going on? So for Janine to say, I know my kids, and like they wouldn't do that, you don't know. I mean, yeah, when I remember as a kid, like if you came home with something that you didn't leave home with, there are going to be questions. And I mean, yeah, some parents, believe like, oh, wow, so-and-so gave you this. All right, well, did you give them anything in return? Or like, what did you do to get it? Did they just give it to you? Or did you help them out? And it's like, hey, don't like take stuff from people unless, you give them something in return. Don't just, take things like that. But it's just one of those things where, yeah, at first glance, you don't ask too many questions. But then when, it's the fact that Janine kind of, was blind to the fact that her kids can do something like this. And I get it, because parents can be blindsided, just like, in relationships, your partner could be blindsided because maybe they didn't know you had a bad temper, or, oh, wow, you got that much debt, this and a third. But when it comes down to the punishment aspect of it, I do think that the conversation could have been a bit different. CJ could have dialed it back a bit, like, hear your kids out to say, just to see if they would tell you the truth, fess up to, bullying and whatnot. But then also on Janine's side, it's just the realization that, wow, my kids really did do this. So how are we going to handle it? But then we switch gears to how she talks. It's funny because the next scene when she's talking with CJ is about, spanking, makes kids violent and whatnot. But I'm like, speaking of violence, weren't you the one who was pointing a knife at your husband because you got in your feelings when he said my kids? And then she just walked out saying that, let me leave before I say something I regret. And then in the next scene, you're talking about divorce. Yes, I know she said she was joking, but in reality, and look, as someone who's not married, maybe my perspective is ignorant to somebody who's like, well, Jeremy, you're not married, so you don't know. I don't think I would joke around about divorce because, no. Especially over something minuscule because you got in your feelings. And honestly, I really wish CJ would have said something like, look, let me put it this way. Unlike the Zach and Fatima debates as of, the past couple of seasons of the show, CJ and Janine both apologized for how, they acted, and they compromised. And as a result, they were able to discipline the kids at the end of the episode together. I did like that. But my issue is the fact that Janine, I really wish it was brought up that, well, Janine, baby, it's like, you're at work a lot of the time, so you're not the one who's here to discipline the kids and whatnot. And something that a lot of people say, well, in the original House of Payne, Jasmine and Malik, CJ didn't want them spanked by Uncle Curtis. Well, here's the thing, though. You had Uncle Curtis and Ella in the household with the kids and whatnot. So CJ, he was parenting alone, but also had his family to back him up. In this new House of Payne, with Janine gone most of the time working, CJ has to hold everything together himself. So in terms of him not being the same like patient, wishy-washy parent he was in the original series, he doesn't have the luxury to be that kind of parent anymore because he's older now. There are a lot of kids. He probably looks at the situations that Malik and Jasmine got into as they were growing up, and it's like, nah, if we didn't spare the rod with them, maybe some of the scenarios they got into wouldn't have happened. And I think Janine was being a bit... Look, I'm not going to... I know it sounds weird to like sit up here and talk about somebody else and how they raised their kids, but it's just some parental points I wanted to talk about because Maybe someday I'll be a parent. But I just feel like when it comes to whoopings and what, trust and believe, I know the difference between a whooping, aka discipline, versus a beating. And I think that people who bully, it's like, well, yeah, usually people who bully are people who are victims of some sort of abuse, in their lives as well. I wish we knew why the kids did what they did. I guess the gist of it was, hey, we wanted something, so we just took it. That felt a bit weak. I felt like there should have been a bit more to that than, just that. But it's just one of those things where this episode kind of had that 20-minute syndrome where I wish we could have dived a bit deeper into it, but I guess we'll just take what we can get at face value. So I'll just explore this conversation based on what we know for fact on the episode. So, when Janine says things like, because kids who are spanked usually turned out violent. And I'm like, I'm not saying she's wrong, but for me, it's like, it did teach me right from wrong. And, when you I went to public school and whatnot. So I remember, going like, wow, I could tell so-and-so they weren't disciplined growing up because they buck wild. I just knew better because I don't know about you, but I remember one time, I got pulled over and I was thinking to myself, I would rather go to jail than deal with my dad over this. But the thing was, it wasn't like I was drunk driving or anything. You all know I don't drink or anything. Basically, I got a ticket for, what was it? This was a few years ago because my dad actually was a few cars ahead of me because I had to go to the auto place to get my car fixed for something. I think the cops had pulled someone. Yeah, because they said I didn't change lanes after I passed. Basically, when a cop car has somebody pulled over, you're supposed to move lanes to avoid, being close to the if you're able to switch lanes after somebody's been pulled over, then do it. What is it called? It was a law they implemented long before this happened. Pass or something, because I did my research and I went to court and I actually won the case because of the fact that, yeah, I looked it up and I went back through the scenario in my head. The reason I feel like I shouldn't get reprimanded is because of the fact that even though the cop had pulled someone over, they were not on the side of the road. They were already on the property of this it was some store. I forgot the name of the store, but basically I was driving and it was like 5 cop cars for one car, but all the cars were inside the entrance of this place. So it wasn't like, oh, I didn't switch lanes and they were on the side of the road. So I won by technicality and I didn't get a ticket or anything. I won. Haha. But basically I just know because my dad is a verbal son of a gun, like he just will make you feel like crap. And I just know that for me personally, I would have rather had dealt with the police than dealt with my dad. And it's like fear. Yeah, I grew up with fear. And it's just one of those things. Do I resent my parents? In a way, yes. And I'm not trying to make this all therapeutic and whatnot. I'm just speaking from facts. But, I feel like when it came to the situation with these twins, they were doing extremely bad things. We don't know how many people they've bullied and taken lunch and everything from. That's just wrong on so many levels. So for them to get punished at the end, it's like some kids, it gets to the point, look, I'd rather have a spanking than be lectured. And it's like, no, you're going to copy from the dictionary. You're going to give I did love the fact that they're like, you're going to apologize to everybody you bullied. You're going to give back everything you took. And then me and your mother, we're not going to work as much because we want to make sure we're up to date on everything you got going on at the school, which I did appreciate that. I still think they should have got spanking at some point, because it's just one of those things where you just, I love how they put their foot down about not, tolerating bullying in the house and whatnot. So that was cool. So to kind of recap here, I really wish that Janine wasn't written to have been as overreactive or to overreact the way she did, because it felt like she was making this about her when in reality the main concern should be to figure out why the kids were doing what they were doing, discipline them accordingly, and make sure they right all the wrongs they did to their fellow students. And I was talking with somebody else about, I will say this, one thing I did love about the episode when they released the clip of these two going back and forth in the kitchen about the discipline, it bred a lot of conversation, and I really do appreciate that. It's the fact that these conversations can be brought up because it adds more depth to the episode. You know, these 20-minute episodes come on, but when they leave fans with conversations that can last for hours, I think that's the markings of a very successful episode. I feel like something I want, and I talked to another fan about this. I would have loved an episode, maybe in the future or something, if we get Jasmine and Malik just talking with their younger siblings, like, hey, we got into some crazy stuff growing up, this, that, and third. And, you know, maybe it could have been a situation where the twins got a spanking from CJ and they were mad at him, but then, you know, their siblings came in to talk about, you know, yeah, things were different when we were growing up, and, you know, yada, yada, yada. It would have been a cool, like, flashback episode. That's one thing I really wish they would do, flashbacks to, like, earlier episodes of House of Payne. That would have been great. But that's all I got for this. I do feel like Janine overreacted, and I know some people probably don't like that. No, she ain't wrong. Those are her kids. Yeah, but I'm just talking about the way she overreacted to the situation, CJ's reaction to the situation, and like I said, making it about her as opposed to making it about the twins. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and let me know, did you get spanked as a child? How do you feel about spankings? You know, for me, would I spank my kids if I had them? Yes, but also it's like, you know, I remember one time my mom told me this about the dog we had. It's like, you know, just to kind of like lightly reprimand him for, like, you know, what was it? What did he do? Like dig holes in the yard, or drag clothes from the clothesline, or did something, I forgot. And she's like, no, he did this while we were gone, and if you hit him now, he's not going to know what he did wrong, so that's abuse, so don't do it. So yeah, it's like, you know, don't just spank your kids to spank them, but let them know why you're doing it, why they're being punished. So it just seemed to me like the twins really weren't that sorry at the end, more so like, ugh, fine, whatever. But I don't know. Maybe we'll see more development as the season goes on. But it was just great to see him on screen, so that was cool. Alright guys, I know this was a lengthy video, about as long as the damn episode, but let's talk about it more in the comments, and I will catch you in the next one.